Hey, NIO fam, happy Tuesday. It's 4 p.m. Central Standard Time as I'm recording this video for you. And on screen, what you have is a little sentiment gauge on my part. That was a post that I put out this morning, and it was a little bit predictive because I was watching and tracking to see if we would get NIO stock trading over 100 million shares, and we did today. But if you'll look down here at the bottom on the view count, after not even 10 hours, we've got over 1,600 views. And now if we compare to less than 2 weeks ago when I did the same thing, just with a different GIF or GIF or however you're supposed to pronounce that, but essentially the same message and the same thing that I was tracking. And here's the difference is from that time, not quite 2 weeks ago, we only had 2,600 roughly views. So comparatively, in a much shorter period of time, the view count is up. This could be an indicator of sentiment shifting. I think it's really just more people becoming aware though. And now let's talk a little bit about that trade volume, because I think that shorts are perhaps getting themselves a little too far over their skis and they may be in a little bit of trouble. So if you'll look at the bottom of the screen, I've got the NIO stock, and it's essentially the three short-term indicators that I've been tracking for quite a while. Trade volume is the first one because it's the easiest, not necessarily because it's the most important. FTDs are second, and then sentiment. But let's now hone in, and this is why it is relevant, this 100 million or above trade million. If you look at the left side here, this is the first day in July here in this month of July where we had an over 100 million share trade volume day for NIO stock. This followed it up, so that's two. This was a third, and today marked the fourth. That matters because in the first 6 months of the year, there were only 5 total days for NIO stock with that bigger volume. And now what you see is now, if we look over on the right-hand side, and I thought this was kind of a funny little, I think this is a 5-minute window here, that you've got such a perhaps heavy attempt with such low volume, not even a million shares traded on a day where, by the way, over 128 million shares were traded. But with under a million shares traded, look at that attempt to bring the price down, or at least that's what it looks like to me. Hey, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. I just think it's interesting that the shorts could be way too far over their skis. And here's what I'm talking about. And this is where the FTD data links in. Some people maybe have been tired of me talking about it, but you might get real interested here if you consider recently NIO stock had an over 3 million share FTD, which essentially means there either couldn't be shares found, or there were fake shares used to suppress or perhaps keep price action down and the price down. But here's where it gets tricky. That came through on a low volume day, meaning let's say there were only 30 million or so shares traded. That's an incredibly big number of shares that couldn't be located to be reported. And then if you'll look at all these other white lines in the recent months, then we come back over here to when NIO stock was over $15 and look at the minor drop off of the FTDs compared to what we have now. And here's why I say the trade volume is an indicator. If we continue to see this big trade volume, then whatever shorts are over leveraged or shorting perhaps illegally, illicitly, and yes, maybe they've been getting away with manipulating the stock price action for a while, they may get caught and torched. And that may be what we saw happen back here. In less than 6 months back in this time frame, NIO stock went from $3.50 to over $55, and it didn't even take 6 months for that to happen. But we saw from this deluge of the FTDs coming in to this big drop off of the FTDs at the same time, the volume spiked on the daily side of things, which again is why that has been a short-term NIO stock price indicator for me that I've been tracking for quite a while. If we see this big volume continue, shorts could be in a lot of trouble, especially if they are too far over their skis. So I wanted to bring that up, have a little fun with it. The sentiment, I'm doing a lot of different things to track the sentiment, but I wanted to share the little posts that I did because that's a simple way to sort of track in this short term to see as awareness continues to improve and increase. By the way, it's Tuesday, and that means insurance registration data also came out from NIO with almost 5,000, 4,900 roughly, and that's across all three brands for the week of July 14th through the 20th. But this is actually where I'd like to go next, a little bit more big picture. And for those who maybe don't realize or weren't aware, or if you're tired of maybe hearing some of the shorts or the negative Nellies talking about NIO not selling enough, just check this out. There are 9 models that the NIO brand sells, right? 2 of them are ET5 models. And if we look at the first half of the year in the different price ranges for BEVs, battery electric vehicles, you've got the NIO EC7, the NIO ET9, which has only been delivered for part of the year as a brand new vehicle this year. You've got the ES8, you've got the ET7, you've got the ES7, you have the EC6, you've got the ES6, and you've got the ET5 models. So that's every single NIO model that's ranking. At the same time, you've got Envo with the L60 in the top 5. And admittedly, I think we're all hoping and we're expecting and hoping to see bigger numbers sooner with the L60. But I also think the L90 is going to help the L60 numbers. And once the L90 comes in, I'm pretty sure it's also going to rank. The only model and only brand that NIO doesn't have ranking just yet is Firefly, because it only had 2 full months of deliveries. But I'll bet by the end of the year, we see that one popping up on the list as well. So my takeaway is, although this shows just how early it is in the full-on changeover from ICE or gas sales, which are represented by the green, or the blue, excuse me, not the green are the BEV sales. And look at how those are almost absent from this list, which means there is still a lot of market in China that needs to shift or switch over to NEV or BEV, and NIO looks very well positioned to take a lot of that share. On the lower end of the spectrum, you see more of the green, and that's where once Firefly deliveries start coming in, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to track and see how well it can do in China, and then of course globally as well. But at such an early stage with respect to the full-on BEV adoption, I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to bring it up. I think it's a big deal. And I'm curious to hear from other people. Where do you think we are with the sentiment gauge? Because that's a harder thing to track. I'll throw out just sort of a few different indicators that I'll be tracking and keeping in mind. One of them will be, let's say, when I see NIO start trending on the platform that I call Twixter. That's Mr. Overhype's platform. And I'm pretty sure he and the folks at his company are not going to want to see NIO trending, but I do believe we're going to see it. And yeah, that's part of the reason I picked the name NIO Trending for the channel, is I was looking into the future, trying to be predictive about what I think is a phenomenal, really a unicorn company, meaning we've never seen anything like it. And if I'm right, if I was right back then, I believe it's only a matter of time before NIO becomes a globally recognized brand. And because they have such incredible products and services, and it is still early, I truly believe that. I'm just excited about the future for this company. But anyway, thanks for sticking around to the end. If this ends up being an over 8-minute video, I will create timestamps or chapters to make it a little more convenient for you as the viewer, in case you don't want to watch it all the way through. But thanks for stopping by. Have a great day. I'll see y'all again very soon.